We need to make sure that we're going through a process, an athlete development pathway that actually really encourages that. So when I put that information out there, they're like, that's really good, but what about my superstar young person? And why can't we do some early stuff? So we talk about actually, well, okay, there's the benefits of doing the multi-events, and you have got somebody who's really good in a particular event. And what we're not saying is we don't want them to sprint or jump or throw. We're saying we want them to do all-round development. Now, this is an example of two athletes, same club. They go to Birchfield Harriers, which is quite a big club in the UK. Quick group interaction. How old do we think this young person is here? 15? Any higher? 25. Not far off. What about the youngster on the other side? The same. These two youngsters were photographed at the age of 12. Their dates of birth are less than 3 weeks apart. Okay? Now, if we were to do a high jump competition, who do you think might have the best chance at this particular stage? Okay? The problem that we've got is parents, coaches will go, this young lad here is the future because he can jump better than anybody else. They miss the fact that he's a foot taller than everybody else, which gives you a slight advantage. And the challenge that we have is when we work with parents and young people and we're trying to encourage this long-term, this 10-year plus approach, if they see that their youngsters are having a really positive impact, then they want that to happen now. They want that success to happen. So we have to work with them to educate them around this particular area. And we do a lot of education with parents now. So one of the key things we talk to parents about is that actually we should be allowing both of these to do athletics and we should be encouraging them to move forwards. And yes, if the child on your left-hand side is getting a lot of success, that's really good. But over time, what we've seen for a lot of research is when the smaller one catches up, then the physically more mature one at an early age tends to start to disengage. So if you have real good success easy when you're younger, you tend to put less effort into training and your own development. If you're smaller and less developed when you're younger, you tend to be a little bit more determined, work a little bit harder, and then in the long term, when you physically grow to the same maturity as your peers, as the other person, then you suddenly overtake them because you have the advantage of being more tenacious, more skillful, more developed. And so when we talk to parents, we say, well, we want them both to have a broad background. We want them both to develop skill. And we want them both to do things that they enjoy. But we need to make sure that they have an opportunity to keep on developing. So two things that we see commonly in early specialized athletes is stagnation in performance around the teenage years. So they become really good, but when maturation becomes not so much of an advantage, that improvements start to slow down or stagnate. And because of that, they lose motivation, and they tend to, at that point, if they don't get successful in the next few years, a lot of them drop out. And we've done an extensive piece of research back in 2011, where over 50% of our most talented under 15 youngsters had dropped out the sport within 6 years. And that was a scary statistic. And only 12% of them were still in the top 20 ranks, because a lot of them had this on their side, this physical maturity. The second part is, if you do the same thing for 10 years, boredom sets in. So giving them a bit of variety helps a lot to keep them involved. So in the UK, we're doing a lot of education to parents around start broad, give them lots of fun experience, lots of all-round skill development, give them the opportunity to decide when they're at that age, and we're probably talking about mid to late teenagers, where we'd expect them to start picking their events or their chosen sport and start to move towards specific training around that. The only other real big challenge we have, in all honesty, is that competition dictates the way coaches and parents and clubs develop young people. And at this moment in time, some of our competition formats encourage event-specific type competitions as young as 12, 13-year-olds. Now, we are working as a sport to try and change that to a more multi-skills, multi-event approach, short, fun approaches. The example we give is if you're a parent with a 12-year-old athlete, they go along, they do 100 meters, which lasts, let's say, 13 seconds, They probably leave their house at 7 in the morning and probably get back to the house 7 in the evening and get to perform for 13 seconds. And we then have to compete against football, what probably leave the house at 10 o'clock to play a match at 10:30 for an hour, and then they're home. So we are, as a sport, less attractive because we take the whole day away from parents. We only let them compete once, and that is a bad experience. So we need to look at our competition formats that we offer. Now, the other question, and Brian mentioned it in his presentation, is around, we get a lot. At international level, there's lots of youth opportunities now. There's the under-18 World Championships, what took place this year, and the European Championships will take place next year for the youth age group. Now, for me, competition, it's how you use it. It's not so much whether it should be there or shouldn't be there. It's how coaches, the sport, parents, even the athletes themselves use it. So going to an under-18 international championships gives them young people the opportunity to experience elite level competition, interact with international athletes, get used to the experience of travel, etc., and the stress of it. But if that is at the detriment, and preparing for that competition is at the detriment of their long-term athlete development, then I would say that that's a negative experience. If it is used as part of a development and an education through under-18s to under-20 to under-23 and onwards to elite level senior athletics, I think it has huge benefits. So my key message really would be from this. My philosophy, and the philosophy I encourage in the UK, is going broad background, fun elements for young people, gradually moving over time to more traditional event-specific athletics, probably around mid to late teens. And we need, as member federations, to look at what we offer, how we educate our coaches, and how we provide competition formats to really underpin that philosophy. And it's a big challenge, I have to say, but it's one that I think that if we actually do eventually get to that point and we can move the culture that way, we will see lots of athletes sustain longer in the sport, lots of athletes excel, and most importantly, one thing we have found is our attention and retention rates in the UK, where we've used that approach in clubs, has gone up quite significantly. From somewhere, for some of them 50%, has moved up to 90-odd% within a club because we're giving them a broader background. Thank you very much.